All right, so for our sales track review, we always look at our sales track, and sales track is starting point, our 15-second commercial, use of qualifiers and tie downs, your personal and borrowed story, the litmus test, and setting the appointment in stone. And as we've said many times, these are your first 6 steps. And as Joan has reiterated many times, probably the most important pieces to this are your 15-second commercial and your use of qualifiers and tie downs. Your litmus test actually could fall under a qualifier or a tie down, but having that good 15-second commercial, that strong 15-second commercial that gets people interested, that engages, gets them excited, gets them thinking about the possibilities, truly wanting to know more about what your offering is. That is what the 15-second commercial comes down to. And then your qualifiers and your tie downs are a way just to find out, how serious is your client? What is important to your client? How are you going to build your value proposition for that client? And then how are you going to tie them down later in the sale? How, when it comes to closing, are you going to have statements and phraseology that will bring them back to the beginning of your process together, have them relive that process and put you in a better position for your closing. Do remember that your first 6 lessons of sales track, this is your introduction. I know we break it down into 6, but this is about 15 to 20 minutes of conversation for those of you that are brand new. So don't be put off by the fact you see 6 lessons that just deal with your introduction. This is broken down into minute detail of different intricate pieces that should be involved in your conversation in that first 20 minutes if you are trying to move it towards an appointment or getting them to watch a video, which could be an appointment, or meet with you in person, or meet with you over coffee to watch a video on your laptop, whatever that looks like. Your sole purpose in this introduction and utilizing sales track is to move you forward into an appointment with the individual, which eventually would move you into getting their numbers so you can make that final appointment to go over results with them and show them what the program will do for them. So our sales process, as we've gone over many times, is gain interest, send videos or webinars, do this. You should do this like an appointment. It is not truly your first appointment. You just met them. You're going to send them videos, but make sure they set a timeline. Say, I'm going to send you those videos. I want to follow up with you in 48 hours, 24 to 48 hours, to see what you think of it. And always remember, it's better to ask somebody, what did you like the best about what you saw? Not, do you have any questions? What did you like the best? Once they've got a little bit of an idea of what it is, move into your first appointment, and there's where you want to gather numbers and build rapport. And always in that first appointment, make sure you set up your second appointment, which is that appointment to review the results of their analysis and go into the closing with them. Also be mindful of giving them the rules of engagement, what they can expect. Where do I find people to talk to is what we talked about last week, and we said make a list of everyone you know, neighbors, where do you frequent, who does your taxes, where do you bank. We had a really good discussion on this, and one thing that you should never do, especially when you're talking about recruiting, and especially when we're in the environment we're in today, many people, you're finding more and more older people are not going into retirement. They're actually working part-time jobs. Just look around at places like Costco and Burger King and used car lots. It's really amazing to me how many older people, and when I say older, I'm going to say 55 plus, have moved into the part-time, or even a lot of these people having to do it full-time because either retirement or whatever just didn't work out the way they wanted. What a wonderful opportunity to share a message with somebody that understands potentially finance, maybe understands what it is to be in a home, might even still be paying on that home because they help kids with college. Let's think about our college students. For many of us, talking to college students may not be in our comfort zone. Maybe we need a millennial or two on our team, because college student debt is maniacal right now. I mean, coming out with a regular bachelor's degree is about $65,000 to $70,000 worth of debt. When we first started doing this program, there was condos for $65,000, $70,000, and $80,000 that were available in fairly good areas. So I want you to understand, when it comes to finding people to talk to, it really should come down to anyone who will listen, anyone that you can share this message with. That's why we talk about the fact that your introduction, your information, everything along those lines should be very organic. It should be conversational language. It shouldn't be, hey, I got the best thing for you, or come across like, you're opening up the trench coat and saying, hey, man, you want to buy a watch. Share the information with people. Share what it's done in your life. Share what it's done in other people's lives, and just bring it up as a matter of fact. With the way things are going today in today's economy, with what we see on the news, there's a lot more sensationalism. There's a lot more fear in the world today than there's ever been, and that's because there's more exposure to information. There is so many different ways you can segue into this information. Yeah, I'm glad I set up for my financial future. I ran across a program that really helped me to do that. Yeah, I was burdened with credit card debt for a very long time, and then I was introduced to a program that helped me with that. There's so many different ways that you can bring this up if you're not trying to sell it, if all you're really trying to do is talk about it and share the information. That's why it's not so important to be an absolute expert on the product as it is to be an expert on your process. How do you move somebody forward from that 15-second commercial into, yeah, would you like to check out a couple videos? That's where the difference is going to be made in keeping that to a process and letting that individual know that your time is valuable as well as their time being valuable. We talked last week as well as that fortune is in the follow-up, and I'm going to reiterate this right at the very end of the presentation as well. You want to verify each step of your process, keep the prospect informed throughout the process, keep track of last communications, escalate your importance with your client or your prospect and your sale. Escalate the importance of, hey, we need to get together, we need to go over this, each day is costing you X amount of money for each week that you delayed. You realize it's adding this much more interest. You said you were ready to move forward in the process. Let's get this done and let's get you going forward. Voicemails, text, emails, no is just not now. I need you to remember that. If somebody does tell you no, keep them in your database. Mark them as a no. Visit them back about 3 months later and just say, hey, I wanted to run by you just one more time. Just to touch base with you, see how things are going, anything changed in your financial situation. Hopefully every client you're leaving, there's no confrontation. You're leaving like, okay, if they don't buy, it's your decision. You know that it's costing you money. You know that I'm here and that I'm available. Leave that door always open to being able to follow up. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about tonight is recruiting. And recruiting is so parallel to your sales process. Your recruiting process is truly, to a degree, selling an individual that you have a good company, the right company. And with us, that's why I say it's not really a sale, it's sharing. We know the company's been around. We know the longevity of the company. We know it's not going anywhere. We know that people are making good money at this, and we know that people are excited being a part of this with the message that we bring. So allow your enthusiasm, as I said in the email that went out inviting to the webinar this evening, allow your enthusiasm and your belief and your personal experience to be what makes the difference for your prospects and individuals that you talk about. Your enthusiasm, if it's informed, your enthusiasm, if it did positive things for you, is what will encourage other people to want to find out more. It's what will make it more inviting. It's what will make it more pleasing. So in the recruiting process, we're going to see that the very first piece is identical, gain interest, the first 6 lessons of sales track. I could have listed them out again for you. But your recruiting process is going to start off the same way. You may not be just talking about the product. It may be opportunity. Well, what was the last job that you did? What if you could find a job where you could work your own hours, you could do it part-time, and you can make great money? When you ask what is great money, what if you could make anywhere from $2,500 to $7,000 a month just doing this part-time? What if you did it full-time, and that could be anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 a month? Use what you've already learned, and we're just breaking into the very beginning of the recruiting process. So we are going to take this slow. We're going to go through it step by step. And I've been trying to get us down to where we have our webinars run no more than about 40 minutes, about 20 minutes of update and about 20 minutes of presentation. I know sometimes we do run into an hour, and sometimes we have them as short as 30 minutes. But I'd like to get a little feedback on that, on what you all think about that, on about 40 minutes being about the time that we want to run. The next piece is send your videos or your live webinar, anything to do with recruiting. Invite them to if you're recruiting somebody, invite them to one of the Monday night webinars. Invite them to a training. Let them see and hear what their updates are like, what their sales training is like. Show them in the back office. For this piece of it, when it says send them, the webinar for the recruiting piece, or show them presentation materials for product, and just let them know this is what you would be representing. So with recruiting somebody, you have a lot of different ways that you can go, but you always want to show them the product. You always want to show them what it is that they would be selling to other people, the opportunity that they would be offering up to other people. Send the videos, live webinar, 24 to 48 hours, follow-up appointment to answer questions that they may have. This is where it gets a little bit different. When I'm recruiting, or when you're recruiting, you should be using your upline. You should be using the person that is like the head of your tier, the person that brought you in. And do a three-way call with this individual and say, hey, I just brought in Bob, and Bob is really excited, and I just wondered if you had 10 minutes you could chat with Bob and tell him a little bit about your experiences and your love of the company and the way things are. I think we truly forget how important it is to utilize that three-way call, not just in recruiting, but in sales as well. That three-way call is the same as the guy from out of town or the gal from out of town with a briefcase. They are the authority. They're speaking with a position of authority, especially if you edify them. Just like if you're turning a sale over to the corporate office, you want to edify the closer at the corporate office. If you're going to do a three-way call for recruiting, you want to edify your upline. You want to edify your leader. Do that three-way call. Close them on the idea of becoming part of the company. And then for recruiting, we have the 250. If you can't get them just to buy the product, to become a part of the company, to utilize the product, because we know those are the individuals that have the greatest success, get them on the 90-day trial. $250 down, they get the program for 90 days, and if in that first 30 days they activate a Platinum or Platinum Plus full, they'll go direct to director. In that 90 days, if they activate a Platinum or Platinum Plus, they'll get their $250 credited towards the sale of that Platinum or Platinum Plus. The next piece that you should look at is begin your training and support. So with that having been said, what we're going to go into this evening is just the first aspect of this, and each week we're going to go into another aspect, sending the videos, the follow-up appointment, beginning training and support. We're going to go through this pretty deep and pretty detailed. But the very first part that we want to go to is gaining interest. When I'm recruiting to sell, I tend to start off with one of these approaches. During discussion, I may say something to the effect of, my business is really growing right now. Do you know anyone who would be interested in making some serious income, part-time, full-time? It doesn't matter. I'm really swamped and I need the help. Maybe something like, I have the best job in the world. I'm helping people take control of their finances and their futures, and I earn great money doing it part-time. Does that sound like something that would interest you? So if they respond favorably with that, which part of this interests you? Taking control of your finances, your future, earning great money, or both? Now, this comes in conjunction with last week, where do we find people to talk to? I know Joan is very prolific in the recruiting area. This is something she is continually concentrating on. In fact, Joan has said more than one time that she recruits to sell. So what I would like to do is, while we're on this gain interest, and we've just gone through a couple of these little particulars, I would like to get Dr. Joan on the line to talk to you a little bit about gaining interest and about the recruiting process, and that need for recruiting intentionally and what she truly does. Joan, to date, has recruited more people individually than anybody else that's in the company right now that we currently have. So Joan speaks with great authority, and also you all hear me refer to her as Dr. Joan. She is actually Dr. Joan Hackenstad. And we're very privileged to have her be a part of our team. And Dr. Joan, are you there?
I am here. Wow, thank you very much for those kind words.
No, no worries at all. We're always so pleased to have you on the call. I think I think that you and I have always been a great offset to each other and how we communicate and what we do. And you saw what I put up there as far as, introductions, and I'd like to hear a couple of yours, but I also wanted to pull up one more slide here real quick so you could see that and have some frame of reference, which is that 15-second commercial and some of the different ideas that are involved in that 15-second commercial and how you integrate this information, sales track, just whatever you want to talk to the field about when it comes to recruiting because of your ability to recruit and your success with recruiting.
All right, well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And oddly enough, when I start my commercial, I actually start with the product. Now, Mac is absolutely correct. I do tend to recruit first, sell second, but the reality is Mac is further correct in that it's not our decision. If the client is a better candidate as an agent, then we're going to go down that route. If that candidate is better as a client, then I'm going to go down that route. But I always start with my commercial focusing on the product. It doesn't matter if that person becomes a client prospect or an agent prospect, they have to believe in the product. So product is paramount in my commercial. So I may say something to the effect of, if somebody asks me what I do for a living, well, you know how most people spend most of their life in debt, paying on things like mortgages, credit cards, auto loans, student loans, for what seems like forever? Well, I show people how to beat the banks at their own game and pay off those debts as quickly as possible. My goal is simply to start a conversation. So when I was first learning about commercials, I used to be a shrink, so I never was in sales before. So when I first got into sales, I was always taught for those commercials, you always identify, well, you know how, well, I. You know how, identify a problem, well, I show you how you have the solution. So that's how I was normally taught how to do it. Now that said, that's great when somebody asks you what you do for a living, but the reality is not everybody's going to ask you what you do for a living. So if I'm at the grocery store, if I'm at the car wash, if I'm at church, if I'm at wherever, and I'm just having a random conversation with somebody, I can also easily redirect the conversation to get back on Worth Unlimited as well. So I'm going to ask 4 simple questions. Do you own any real estate? How much time do you have left on that debt? Don't you hate all that money you're going to give away to that financial institution in the form of interest? Have you heard about the Worth Account program? Again, my goal in that commercial is simply to start talking about the Worth Account presentation or about the Worth Account program. And then in the course of that initial conversation during sales track, when I'm asking the questions, when we're going through those 6 steps of sales track, that's when I identify, is this really a good candidate as a client or as an agent? It's the questions that are going to help you to determine which path that you take with that prospect. So you still follow the same sales track. During that initial conversation, you still are following the exact same sales track as you do for the, it would help if I could speak, for the client sale. But in the course of those questions, that's going to help you determine, is this a better fit as an agent, a client, or quite frankly, both. Now, your conversations for recruiting are slightly longer, though, because they have to have buy-in not only in the product, which is where you would end for the client side, but now you have to have buy-in for the agent side. So it is a little bit longer of a conversation. Now, another way that I like to kind of introduce it is I absolutely love to recruit salespeople. So maybe I'm at a restaurant and I've just had fantastic dinner. In fact, tonight we went out for dinner after work. And so I had fantastic service. So I asked Nick, who was my server, hey, you did a great job tonight. Thank you so much. Hey, I'm looking for some more agents. I'm looking to expand my team. Are you interested in making some extra money? So it was very casual. It was a very short conversation. He said, well, yeah, I'm always looking for ways to make money. What do you do? Well, that gave me an opportunity to get more into what I do and to identify, is he really a good client prospect, agent prospect, or both? So like I said, long-windedly, I like to start with the product in mind, and then in the course of the conversation, in the course of asking questions, I identify which path we're now going to go down as a client, an agent, or both. Did I lose you, Mac?
Hey, Dr. Joan, how are you doing there? Of the video, thank you for that. I had myself on mute. I actually started talking to you and I was on mute. That's why I came in like that so abrupt. But anyway, I had a question for you. With the videos that you utilize, when you utilize video information, do you find that any one video is better for recruiting than any other video that we have back there? Because I know we don't actually have a recruiting video. I know the ones that I like to send, and I'm going to list a couple here, but I'm just wondering off the top of your head, is there a video that you like to send people to when you're recruiting them? Is there one in specific that shines out to you? Or do you do that organically as well to the individual and what information you think they need to see or hear?
But unfortunately, it is more of the latter. I do it organically. Now, that said, I always do 2 videos, minimum. Sometimes I send more than that. But my 2 videos, the first one is always a product-oriented video, and that one is going to be catered to the conversation I've had with the person. If the person's analytical, I will likely use one of your past recordings that is about either the ALOC presentation or the Worth Unlimited Live presentation. I love, quite frankly, John Washenko's presentation from about 3 weeks ago. I've been using that one for the past 3 weeks as well. I think that one's fantastic. So the first video is always about the product. Now, if somebody is not as analytical, then I'm going to probably use my Worth Unlimited website, theworthaccount.com/agent ID. That has 2 videos on it. I think they're fantastic. The first one's about 10 minutes, so it's something that most people are willing to invest that 10 minutes, and it gives a really good overview about the product. And then should they choose to get, if they're really excited, they'll watch the second video, which is about how to use it in real estate investing as well. Now, again, I use that for most people, but if they're analytical, I'll likely use one of the other videos. Another video that if I'm going to send 3 about the product, or I'm sorry, 2 about the product, then I may actually send the demo account as well. I think that demo is really powerful for your financial planners, for your CPAs, for those that are really numbers oriented, and especially those that deal and help other people deal with finances. I will likely send the demo of the program as well. Now, the second video, I said I always send 2. One's about the product. The second one's about the compensation. So I always send from the back office the video about the compensation, and I always attach the compensation PDF. Now, no offense to corporate, and please, I'm not trying to be rude, but I actually find that that compensation video is not very good. I know it's pretty old. I think it's hard to follow. I think it's kind of challenging for a lot of people to get it sometimes. I think we might want to work on that in the future, so sorry. But the PDF, at least, that can give people a written explanation, and some people need to see that it's in writing to feel like it's real. And then I always give a verbal explanation of the compensation as well, so they can have at least the video. If they start watching it, they tend to not finish it for that compensation video, but at least they have it. They feel more comfortable. They know that it's real and it's legit. They have the PDF as well, and that helps them be comfortable. So those are what I typically use.
Okay, awesome. And on the screen I had, if you all have not watched John's new video, I had each one of those outlined, Joan, so you followed right down beautifully. I don't know if you were coming off the screen or not. But John's new video I find is very good as well. We constantly have materials in that back office. There's so many materials. The reason I asked you that question was Ralph asked me if there was anything we would suggest specifically for recruiting. And I said, while we do not actually have a specific recruiting video, there are some that are tailored. We try to tailor it more to the individual and the information that they need to be able to make a decision and feel comfortable with it. And that's pretty much what you iterated. So thank you for that, Dr. Joan, very much.
I'm going to chime in real quick if you don't mind.
Sure.
Ralph, if it's the Ralph that I think it is, Ralph's a financial planner, so he's likely going to be recruiting other financial planners. If I were you, Ralph, I would be using probably the Worth Account presentation, that live one in the back office. That's one that's done by Mac. It's fantastic. And then I would also send the demo. Now, my strong runner-up would be John's new video as well. So for financial planners, that's probably be the videos for the product that I would send. I might even send all 3 of them depending on who I'm speaking with. But you don't want to overwhelm that person either. If you send too many videos, they aren't going to do anything. If you send 1 or 2, then they're more likely to watch them. So, but if that's the route I think it is, those were the videos that I would send for the financial planners you're likely going after.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Joan, very much. And I haven't seen any response. Yep, Ralph says, I agree about Mac's presentation. I'll start using the demo. So I think it is the Ralph that you're talking about, Ralph W. And so I think it's the Ralph that you and I both know pretty well. So, Ralph, I hope that was helpful for you on the call this evening. What I would suggest also, Ralph, is, and for everybody on the call, go through the bevy of videos that are in your agent portal. Get really familiar with them, because sometimes you want to pull certain parts of it out. You may have somebody that's, chopped for time. So you know how to get exactly to a certain spot and say, hey, I really want you to see this, or I want you to understand this about it. The demo can be great for answering questions as well. I think the demo is phenomenal to learn how to do your own demo, and when somebody has a question about the operation of the product, I find that a demo is a great way to do that. And this is in the recruiting area. When I've dealt with financial planners, mortgage brokers, tax people, they say, well, how does the program look at this or that? Giving a demo rather than trying to explain it is always going to be very powerful. The other thing that I would say is that in your recruiting process, take it just like your sales process. Set everything up for review, for appointments, for things of that nature with a 24 to 48-hour deadline. This is something that we're going to stay on. We're going to keep on you about. Your conversations need to be leading you somewhere. All too often, we find individuals that just have these generic conversations about the product. They say too much or say too little, and they don't direct the client how to get started, how to get moving, how to go forward, how to find out more information. And before they realize it, they've actually kind of worn the prospect out. The prospect's not getting the information that they need. So be conscious of your prospect's time. Be conscious of being to the point and being concise, but also have fun with this. I know that may sound like, have fun and be to the point and concise, but you can do that. Just don't rabbit trail too drastically with information or personality. Stay a little bit more to trying to move this forward in the direction of a sale. Move the conversation forward. Use your process, your 15-second commercial, your borrowed stories, your qualifiers and tie downs, your litmus test. Use all of this in the process of recruiting. As we said before, your sale and your recruiting are incredibly similar, and what is really going to make the difference is the direction the conversation is going in. And if you are well-versed in your sales track and your information, your 15-second commercial, your different components of your process, it'll be much easier for you to move very organically throughout your process. Follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. In the prospecting business, follow up is the deal. It is absolutely the deal. Joan, do you remember off the top of your head what it was, that it was how many times you have to follow up with somebody to get an 80% response on the people you meet?
5 to 12 times, and then 12 plus times is 95%.
There you go. So if you want a really good, I want you to think about that, because a lot of us think about the fact of, I'm wearing somebody out or I'm leaving too many messages. I want you to think of the nature of how busy people are today with social media, with their jobs, with taking, kids back and forth to sports, to all the information that they're being bombarded with. It is not beyond someone to have interest in what you have to offer, but just forget about it. It is very important in this stage of the game that you are following up with your clients, date, time, locations, make notations on what you've done. What should they expect out of you? Hey, I really am interested in getting together with you. I think this would be fantastic for you and your family. It was great meeting you at the BNI meeting the other night. I really enjoyed what you had to say. I'd love to have a chance to get together with you over coffee and maybe discuss with you a little bit what I do. 35-minute videos. Those are the 2 combined videos. Try to keep it to no more than that, because people with attention spans, that's why I think Joan likes using the 10-minute video as an introduction. Do send a compensation. We've been talking about redoing the comp, so thank you, Joan, for that, for mentioning that on the call, and we're looking into redoing a compensation video for you. Have your clients take notes when they watch videos if they're prospects about the business. Have them take notes, questions they may have. Send confirmation emails. Confirm the day of. Hey, I'm sending out these videos. I just want to make sure that you're getting these. We have the webinar tonight that I invited you to. It's going to be happening at 8 p.m. Eastern. 6 p.m. Mountain, wherever they are, call them a couple hours in advance, invite them to that. Make sure you follow up on the day you said you would. Hey, I sent those videos to you yesterday. I just want to know, did you have the time to take a look at them like you told me you would? Do you have time to set up your next appointment with me now? Always keep them informed. Always keep the process moving forward. Always follow up. For everybody that's been on the call this evening, I want to thank you for joining us for the Worth Agent Update and Sales Track Training Call for January 28th, 2019. And our topic for this evening was recruiting basics. If you ever have the need to get in touch with me or support, there's the information on the screen. To Dr. Joan, I want to thank her so much for getting on the call. I want to thank her for her information. She is so integral to my success on these calls and to your success in the field. And I just want to thank her for the time that she's taken and the devotion that she's taken. So Dr. Joan, thank you very much. Everybody else on the call, thank you for joining me. I'm sure this was a wonderful webinar. There was some great information that was distilled in this webinar. Put it to use. Get out there and talk to somebody. And thank you for joining us for the Worth Agent Update Sales Track Training Call for January 28th, 2019. This is your National Sales and Training Director, Max Saunders, saying let's get out there and do it big. Let's get out there and do it right. But at the very least, let's get out there and do something right now. This is Max Saunders saying bye-bye for now.